We're pressing still very gently at this point. We have just a kind of a big sloggy pile here. My hands are very, very flat, and any rubbing is just very gentle along the edges and always towards the center, never wiping out towards the outside, but my hands are about as soft as if you were rubbing lotion on a little baby's back. You can always lift your mesh and make sure it's not sticking to your mesh. You don't want your fibers to be pilling or grabbing onto the mesh. You don't want your design moving underneath your pressure. So if it starts to shift around, then you know you're using too much pressure. So we are basically just going for a feeling here. We're going to rub each side just a little bit, and then I'm going to release some of the water. So we're going to go ahead and turn this over. And this is our inside of our top. And as we rub, again, I like to just always rub towards the center, away from the edge of the template, because we don't want it sliding off the template and start to felt to itself. That is called what we refer to as forming a seam. And we don't want that to happen. Take a lot of work to try and get it out. So always towards the center and sort of hugging the edge of that template as you go around. Okay, I'm increasing my pressure just a little bit here, but I still have a pretty big sloggy pile. So I'm going to drain off a little bit of water. I'm just going to drain that right into my bucket. All I did was tilt my tray into my bucket, and that leaves me now, I can get a little better feeling for where my project is. We're going to keep rubbing gently on both sides, again, towards the center and hugging that perimeter. So you can see that I'm able to handle my piece now. It's pretty much holding together. It doesn't really have integrity of felt yet, but it's starting to hold together pretty well, and it is even buckling a little bit on the template. It's not ready to take the template out, but we can roll it. So here come the use of our little dots, just in case you get interrupted. This might be an easy way to keep count. So what we're going to do, drain off a little bit of water. We're not going to roll very aggressively. We're going to roll pretty lightly, because I like to do a lot of hand felting, especially something like this over the resist. But what we're going to do is we're going to roll in this direction. Our dot is right here at the top. I'm not sure if that shows up on the video, but here's our dot. We're going to roll in this direction 25 times, turn it counterclockwise, roll it in this direction 25 times, turn, roll, and then we're done. So we'll flip it over and roll the other side. So let's do that. I'm going to just fold that up a little bit. I'm not rolling very tightly. I really didn't put any pressure on that. And then I'm going to use my towel. I like to roll over a towel sometimes instead of tie it off on such a small project. And we're just going to roll 10 and give a little bit of a turn. 10 and a little bit of turn. So that was 30. We'll just do 30 from each direction. Usually do 25, 30, some small number. So you can see it's already starting to shift, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. I am going to wet it just a little bit. Keep everything together. Okay, it's just a little dry. Gently rolling, not too tight, and let's just continue that from all directions. So this is our last direction on this side. So we've rolled from all 4 directions on this side, and now we're going to turn it over and repeat. Feels a little drier than I like, that's why I'm adding the water. And some soap. If it starts fuzzing out while you're rolling, then go ahead and add that soap and water. You don't want the surface pilling. Okay. Okay, so we rolled our project from 4 different directions on each side. And you can see now that if I do what's called a pinch test, I think you can probably see that. If we do what's called a pinch test, it's tinting up and holding together by itself. Now the felt is not done. We're very much at a soft felt stage, but we can take it off the template now and finish felting with it off the template. So there's still going to be quite a bit of felting to do. So we're going to go ahead and cut that out. I'm going to go right into the center there, and sometimes I like to just take my awl and poke in, get a little hole started, and then we're just going to snip out a little hole. So first make a very tiny cut. The hole is always going to grow as you felt, so be conservative, and we want to get all the way down to the template. Or resist. I tend to call it a template a lot. Okay, now before we take it off, I want to felt that hole. I want to get those edges bound together. So get your hands wet and get your wool wet and smash it down, and then just kind of seal those edges. Because we've cut it, it's all open and could fray, so we want to bind those down, get them felted. So just spend a few minutes rubbing that opening and rubbing along the edges and get them kind of sealed down, and then we're going to take the template out. Okay, so I'm pressing really firmly and rubbing with really good amounts of pressure, and then I'll put my hand in and just felt all around that little opening. And we'll continue to work it after we take it off, but we just reach in there now and take our template out. Because we chose a flexible material, it'll come right out. And before I even flip it over, I'm just going to get my hand in there. We're going to keep opening this up because I want to get my whole hand in there. But I'm just going to felt the top and the bottom of this a little bit, and felt this side a little bit before I turn it inside out. So I'm going to work this a little bit with my hands. You can see we have a really nice piece of fabric going here. And I'm going to work all around this perimeter, and then we're going to turn it inside out. So spend a little time felting the outside using your fingers or your bent in hand inside like this. So kind of rubbing inside like that. And just work over the whole outer surface. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and turn our vessel gently inside out. And you will see the inside is not as felted as the outside where you were. But we did pretty good on getting to the center of our little marker that we had there. And so I'm going to gently hand rub this, and I can also, you start to feel that the soap just doesn't feel as slick, and it feels a little sudsy, a little airy. So what I'm going to do is rinse the project in hot water, get it hot again, and get myself some renewed hot water, and we'll pick up from there. Because all my wool is cold, and heating it up a little bit is going to help with the further felting and fulling of our project. We have rinsed our project and gotten a fresh bucket of hot water, and if you can kind of tell on closer inspection, when you do that first rinse, you can really see how well it's felted. So, which is not very done, it's not finished, it's very much in that soft felt stage, and we want to keep going. So get the project wet, and we're going to do more hand rubbing, and then we're going to roll it more in the bamboo blinds. So first I'm just going to, wet the entire area, and especially we're on the inside now. So the inside is the least amount felted. When you're working on a bigger project, like a big vessel or a bowl or a hat or a cat cave or something, you'd be able to get your hand in there and felt it without turning it inside out. So you would do some felting there right away. In this case, difficult to plunge my entire hand in there, and so we turned it inside out. You would anyway, because this is the outside, but I'm just saying you wouldn't have to turn it inside out until it was maybe more felted. So I'm still just rubbing the surface a great degree. I'm getting pretty aggressive with it now. I'm pressing very hard into the palm of my hand and using a lot of pressure from the other side. You can turn it back inside out if you feel it's not very well felted on that side. You can always turn it back inside out again. And now at this point, in some way it reminds me of working with clay because you're getting more aggressive. And what we can also do, I haven't even decided what the final shape will be, but we can, just gonna get some of this water out of the way. We can fold it, go ahead and fold it evenly, and you can roll it all by itself. Just gonna get this water off my roll and squeeze and roll and squeeze in one direction, and then roll and squeeze. I'm just doing the opposite side, but actually I did the same direction, and now I'm going to turn it over, roll it from the other side. You can really start to feel it constrict. It's very soapy. I'll rinse it. The water's very hot. And I think what we'll do is some more rolling in the bamboo blind. Okay, so we're going to roll in our bamboo blind a little bit. Palming and rubbing a lot with your hands is a great way to felt, but this is also a little more symmetrical, and you'll see that we're going to get some real nice shrinkage as a result of doing this. So we don't have our counting dots now, so let's just remember this is our first roll, and we're going to roll from all 4 directions. That's 25. The wool shrinks in the direction it's rolled, and that's why we want to be symmetrical in our treatment of it. It's looking pretty good. We have a nice felt, and we're going to continue fulling or further shrinking the fabric and shaping it. Okay, so right about now I'm starting to decide what I want my shape to be, but I can smooth it down. You could rub it on something like this. This is a little more aggressive right now, or rub it on our rigid mat and just rub the whole surface like you're burnishing it. Now when you have a larger project, you could be shaping it over something if you had something that was in the shape that you wanted. But I just wanted this to be kind of organic and maybe even remind me a little more of a clay bowl, or love a knit bowl. So what we're going to do now is basically decide the shape we want. I'm going to rinse it, and then I'm going to stuff it with fabric. I like to use quilting fabric rather than paper or plastic because it can just be washed and dried and used again. So anytime I can use something non-disposable, I will. So I think I'm going to go for a pretty traditional shape, and if you wanted to have a little dip in here like this one does, is I just bound it. You can bind it with fabric, or in this case I used a chenille stem because it's so small. So this one I think I'm going to shape a little more. It'll remind me of maybe a southwestern clay vessel. So we're going to rinse, stuff, and set to dry overnight. Now you can actually steam it. You could steam it now a little bit, or you could wait until it's dry and steam it the next day. If you have a really big vessel, it may take longer to dry, or you may need to set it outside. I don't usually throw mine in the dryer because it seems to bring the natural crimp back to the fibers, and I prefer it to look a little more smooth. But we're gonna leave this sit overnight and then come back and finish it up. We let our vessel sit overnight. It is nice and dry, and so is the fabric. Actually, I suspended it on bamboo that was draped over a bucket so that there was air to flow underneath. And that's a good idea if you have a bench outside or something like that. And we can take out our little quilting squares, which we can reuse again. And here's our little finished vessel. So it is holding its shape. It is a soft vessel. I could have hard felted it more and shrunk it even more, but I was just going for a casual vessel to be a little decorative. And if you were making a cat cave or something like that, or a larger vessel, you would definitely use more layers and probably want to felt it even more. This is holding its shape well, but the larger it is, you probably want it thicker so it holds its shape if Kitty is jumping in and out of it. We could steam press the outside of this, but I'm not going to. It does help it get a little bit of a sheen and flatten it down. And then you can also shave the outside if it's a little fuzzy. That's going to depend on the fibers you're using, as well as the finishing methods, how much you sort of burnish the outside. But sometimes the fiber you choose is just going to be a little bit fuzzy, and you can just shave it down and smooth it out. So we're all finished. So that's it for today's lesson. We hope you had fun watching along as we wet felted our vessel. If you enjoyed this segment,
Please let us hear back from you and leave your feedback below. And if you decide to felt along, make sure to send us a picture of your vessel made as a result of watching this video. You can send those to submissions@livingfelt.com, and you can also post them right on our Facebook at facebook.com/livingfelt. We have a great community that is very warm and supportive, and every picture sent to us is a chance to win great felting supplies and even gift certificates from our shop at livingfelt.com. We even reshare them in the newsletter. Every week we fill that with inspirational pictures from our felting friends around the world. We post them on our blog and we reshare them on Facebook. So join us for that. Make sure you subscribe and get all of our videos up and coming, and consider wet felting yourself a pair of slippers or even a purse. Stay tuned for our next video, wet felting your cozy arm warmers or wrist warmers for the winter. Until next time, I'm Marie Spalding with Living Felt. Thank you so much for joining us. Make it a great day, and as always, happy felting.